Yeah, we're as live as live. We're as live as live gets.
Good. That's what when I was in high school for the morning announcement show that I was one of obviously the main anchors for. Whenever
Of
we'd have to
course.
run it live, we would utilize that. Obviously, they would leave out the part where definitely like that. Yeah. It was a good time. All right, let's get rocking and rolling here. This is Baseball and Stitches weekly wrap up. Hanging out with you guys, Evan and Ryan here as always. And this week, our boy Jackson Scudder is currently on a bus going from Ohio to Tennessee. Jackson, if you're awake and alive, we love you, brother. Stay safe when you drive back. We have in his place today, running from the OPS, hanging out with us. Some of you know him as running from the ops, as we all like to say. And we're rocking and rolling today. Flax, tell everybody about our names.
So when we first started using this platform that we use to do our podcast recording, we were like, oh, it'd be funny if we just picked random MLB players' names from the past, the present, and then we found out after we recorded that it did not stay on the recording. So we never got to show anybody all the fun names that we had. So now we're just going to start recycling through them, and you guys all get to see them on the live. So I'm going to try and pick a switch hitter every week. That's my goal. I will eventually run out, I'm sure, but here we are.
Yeah, Jared Saltalamacchio over there, or the Salty Dog, as he was known to me growing up. I have Nats legend and all names team superstar, Lastings Millage. That's who I am this week. Ops, who are you?
Guess I'm Richard Fitz. I got a comment earlier on one of my posts, and now I honestly can't unsee it, and I think you and Evan agree, so I guess we're going with Richard Fitz.
I think it's more than you want to believe, but I am seeing it a little bit. I am seeing it a little bit.
I am too, a little bit. Once I raise my cheeks a little bit, I can see.
He's got these little dimples right there. We gotta get you some dimples.
Did you see the facial hair he had on one of his pictures too? You might have to go with that.
Yeah, please don't. Please don't.
I know what it'll be for Halloween this year.
Oh, hey, listen, I'm normally Ricky Fowler for Halloween. Wait till you see the hair out, and wait till you see me put the blue jumpsuit on. It works well.
Oh my god! I don't know that I've dressed up for Halloween in years.
Listen. Ops is just having more fun than us.
I know. I was gonna say this is.
We used to be fun guys. Now we're on the internet.
Hashtag this is 30.
This is. Oh God, don't remind me. Either way, moving right along as we are. Flax, drop us into our first topic. Wrap up.
So I saw a comment earlier this week. Noelvi Marte obviously has been hitting the cover off the ball, and I saw one of the reporters ask Terry Francona. We love Tito. We love the way that he talks about baseball. But one of the reporters, asked about him. He was like, yeah, he's using the whole field. It's when he's, going to be his best hitter. And he goes, yeah, it got out of the ballpark at 113 miles an hour. And he kind of looked at him sideways and he just goes, yeah, I mean, it still only counts for one run. And I thought it was just the perfect epitome of why Terry Francona is so good, because he has such a great way of blending the analytics and understanding how a team is built, why the analytics are important, how to put a lineup together, but the traditional baseball sense of let's not make this harder than it is and let's not make this a bigger deal than it is. And so I loved that. And I think it's so interesting the space we are in the game. When you look at managers, you have a lot of different ages and you've got a lot of different styles. And it's fascinating because you're starting to see the separation of where success tends to come, regardless of the talent that some teams have. So I don't know. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think that's a fun place to start, and then we'll kind of see where it snowballs us into.
No, I think that's a great point too. It's
from you on Tito, because
I think it's good too. I know me and Evan look a lot at the advanced stuff, but you got to make it simple for these players to understand, right? You could suggest pitch usages or different swing mechanics and stuff like that, but if it's not comfortable for a guy to be implemented, then it doesn't really matter. So keeping the game simple at the end of the day, I think, is really important for these players. And like Evan was saying, 113 mile an hour home run is the same as a 86 mile an hour home run that goes in as a wall scraper. So keeping the game simple for especially a young guy like Noelvi Marte is very important.
I think Tito does a really good job of reminding his players that there's a process to get to what needs to happen, but at the end of the day, the result of the process was a very hard-hit baseball that went over the fence. And the other piece is we're going to act like we've been there too. We're not going to sit here and go about our day. It's not that you can't have fun playing baseball. That's not where this conversation is going. But Noelvi Marte is expected to do this because he's been through this process, and Tito is here to continue to shepherd him through that and bring these young players up. We've talked about it many times on the podcast and different things that we do, but Francona is going to set a different type of culture there in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And what he sets in culture is so good for young players. I got to watch it for years in Cleveland, like I've said many a times. Just very impressed. Oh, we have a Denny sighting, our first Denny sighting of the stream.
Tails in the stream.
There it is. He's always got to make his way in. There was some other managers making some headlines.
Yeah.
Flax, let's move to the maybe not as rainbows and sunshine that Tito makes everything seem like.
Well, no, I'm glad because you guys brought it up, right? Like, it's a matter of managing the guys the right way, the way each guy kind of needs to be managed. And Pat Murphy did something that I thought was wild. I disagree with it. Ryan, I know that you and I talked about it. We probably would have gone about it a different way, but earlier this week, Pat Murphy, manager of the Brewers, for those who don't know, benched Sal Frelick and Caleb Durbin this week in the same game. 4th inning, 5th inning. Sal Frelick...
3rd inning, 5th inning.
3rd inning, 5th inning, excuse me. Sal Frelick missed a cutoff man. Happens. Caleb Durbin gets picked off at second base. I don't love the idea of benching guys for what I would call baseball mistakes. I don't necessarily want to divide it between physical and mental errors because getting picked off, you could call a mental error. But it was truly just a baseball mistake. He's a young guy, needs to understand the situation a little better, but is new to the league and is trying to make an impression clearly. So he's going to do some stuff in situations that you maybe wouldn't necessarily call for it. When we went back and watched when he got picked off by Sonny Gray, he got picked off on second base. They're down 5-1 in the 5th inning, in a situation where he has no need to get to third base, with Bryce Terang, who's one of their hottest hitters right now at the plate. I don't love him trying to steal, but I also don't love him getting benched for trying to be aggressive. I don't know, to me, what it says about the culture, but I'm curious your guys' thoughts on Pat Murphy's choice to bench those two guys, and specifically Caleb Durbin for the choice that he made there.
So real quick, and I just want to make sure, OPS, did you see both of these plays? Because if you did not, I'm going to run.
No, I did not,
okay,
no.
So the two different plays, Frelick was benched in the 3rd inning for missing the cutoff man.
Yeah.
That was why Frelick was benched. And then in the 5th inning, Caleb Durbin was on second, nobody out, down 5-1, Bryce Terang at the plate. Ergo, he's already in scoring position, ball in the grass with Durbin's speed, scoring. There was probably no need with the top of the order up to go to third. He gets picked off on the 4th pitch of the at-bat. Kind of looked like he had good timing. The Cardinals, it was Sonny Gray, hit him with the flash play, right? Really good break by the shortstop. Catcher's glove goes down. They bang him.
It was a well-run play.
By the Cardinals. Durbin gets picked off trying to be aggressive, going to third, gets benched. So there's the situation. Murphy benched them, did outwardly state that he benched them, and basically his reasoning was more so on the lines of, we need to play more fundamental baseball. We haven't been. I had to make an example of these two players. So there's your situation.
I mean, I like it too. One, I think players need to be held more accountable, and I think in this generation we aren't really seeing that. And I'm also a big proponent of, I think physical errors are fine. In Major League Baseball, especially with high, exit velocity, ground balls, fly balls, you're going to make errors. But mental errors, I don't think you can have at the Major League level. Sure. This is something that you're playing baseball your entire life. You're constantly preparing for these games. And the preparation that these athletes have now is a lot better than they used to have. I think making mental errors, especially in a game where you're trying to get back into the game, you're clawing back in, you get back picked at second base when one of your hottest hitters is up. I think that's a situation that you need to think about. Check behind maybe to see if the shortstop is crashing. Check and see what he's doing before the play. You shouldn't be getting picked off at second base, especially down a couple runs with one of your hottest hitters up. I agree with the situation.
It's so hard for me because getting picked off is one of the people say that the pitcher's mound is the loneliest place in baseball. Getting picked off and walking off the field is the loneliest place in baseball. especially in a major league stadium where you have, potentially 30 to 40,000 eyes on
Right.
you in that moment. I think the only hard part for me with Pat Murphy choosing to bench him rather than have a conversation with him and move on from it is the precedent that it sets that you're not letting the leaders and the veterans on your team handle that conversation.
Right.
Why can't it be a situation where Durbin comes to the bench and a Christian Yelich pulls him aside and says, "Hey man, we're down 4 in the 5th. We're finally starting to get to Sonny Gray, and we don't need you to score from third base. You can score from second base. I understand what you're seeing, but let's think about the big picture of the game there and make a better decision next time." To me, that's how you play clean fundamental baseball going forward. I'm sure somebody had that conversation with him. Pairing it with putting a young guy on the bench, in my mind, stifles a little bit of aggressiveness in what you could see from him going forward. I don't like to think that these guys are that soft, but the likelihood is there are guys in the league that are. And so handling that situation the way it happened, and then having Sal Frelick after the game tell the media, "Yeah, we got benched because we made some poor mistakes, and coach has to set an example," or whatever. Pat Murphy's got to set an example. I think it's a bad example to set, quite honestly. And benching Sal Frelick for missing a cutoff is the dumbest thing in the world.
Yeah, I would say the cutoff is a little bit much. But you also have to
doing?
think of it too is if he's not putting up with mental errors, it sets the precedent for the team. Like, hey, like this is not allowed. Like coming into the game, I need to be more mentally prepared about what's going on in the game and play better situational baseball. It might be a little egregious, but at the same time, I think it sets the clubhouse culture like we saw last year with how well he ran the Brewers. And it almost exemplifies that again as, hey, I need to show up to the ballpark better prepared.
I think one of the big things that I hit on with this is personally, when it comes to benching, I think what scares me with benching people is it normally makes them sulk in their error or feel that there was no learning experience from their error, depending on how you do it, which always scares me with that, right? Because you can just sit a dude on the bench and he just sits there. What the hell did that do for him? But needless to say, I think you got to go the opposite way too, and we've got to ask ourselves, the only people that Pat Murphy has the opportunity to bench or set an example of are going to be some of these young guys.
Right.
Christian Yelich, as long as he's not lollygagging in the outfield or not like, he might not even have to run at every ground ball right now. He's never getting benched. Willem Contreras getting closed into a contractual year. He ain't getting benched unless he does something so egregious and everybody would agree with it. It's not going to happen. So
Right.
It is an interesting situation because part of this is Pat Murphy is trying to set whatever cultural example he needs to set for his clubhouse. Great, fine. This is the way he decided to do it. But the reminder for me is that it has to come against one of these younger guys who is not as solidified, right?
Right.
They were easier targets to do this to, is almost where I'm going with this. I'm a big proponent of everything is team related. I think if we're upset about how this team is playing fundamentally, I think that's a sit down with your whole group. I think that
Right.
there could have been other ways to do it, and the difference is that Pat Murphy's philosophy is just going to be different. And in this scenario, you seem to like it a little bit. Flax and I don't love it as much, and that's fine. In my
Right.
opinion, this is a situation where there was no right way to handle it. Now, let's move into a situation where there might have been a better way to handle it, and we're going back a week or two. That's the Snedeker-Kelnick situation as we move into the final piece of this where Kelnick did not run out a fly ball, pimped it, ball didn't go out. Kelnick ends up out at second, and then things hit the fan.
That ball, by the way, was out, I think, in 22 of 30 ballparks.
Listen, it would have gone out somewhere. Yankee Stadium for sure. But we're not playing at Yankee Stadium, okay? That's the problem here. And listen, as a guy who in the last 7 years has bat flipped 7 different balls that didn't go out, don't be that dude. Just don't be that dude.
I was going to say, Evan's saying getting picked off on the bases is the most loneliest part of baseball. When you pimp a non-home run and you get thrown out at second base.
Yeah, it might be worse.
That is absolutely inexcusable. Can
New levels
never
of
happen.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever experienced it, so I don't know.
You don't
On it,
feel dropouts like me?
if I'm there has to be this moment for Kelnick there where he notices it's not going to be a home run, and he has this thing switch in his mind. It's like, I have to be at second base, and you almost wish he had just stopped at first. Like, you'd almost rather just stay at first in that situation, be able to be on first base, put your hand up and be like, my bad, guys. At least you're not coming back to the dugout.
Right, and also sucks when you're struggling at the plate too. Like, it just
Yes.
adds insult to injury. Just the whole situation.
Absolutely.
Flex, real quick, can you give the breakdown on the Snedeker situation outside of the fact that he didn't run out of fly ball?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think about the years specifically. I think it was there was a 2018 incident and there was one other year. But Ender Inciarte, Marcelo Zuna, and Ronald Acuna Jr., all three at different points in times were benched by Snip for not running out balls in a very, very similar fashion. And people's big gripe was because the same thing happened to Acuna in a playoff game, and he got benched in a playoff game for a ball that hit off that exact same wall on an opposite field fly ball. And everybody's whole thing was, there was a little bit of, is he only going after the Latin guys? Is he leaving Kelnick alone? I took it as the situation of every situation is different. If you're a manager who has a good culture, every situation is handled differently. In that instance, I still think he could have benched Kelnick. I think it doesn't hurt the team to bench him. It makes a statement early in the season when your team is not playing as well as you want your team to be playing. That being said, when he did it at the time, he was doing it to guys that were supposed to be examples of how you play the game the right way. Who you are for the Braves. For the Braves wanted to be, right? A guy who middle of the order bats. Guys who needed to be more important to the team that he needed to make an example of. I think Kelnick's just not important enough to make an example of.
I would still bench him, in my opinion.
100%. 1,000%.
I think especially if you're struggling, and I know, like, you're struggling, you get one in the air, you've hit a couple home runs in your career, you're like, yeah, like, maybe I get it. I get maybe pimping it, but your head's not in the game when you're doing that. And I understand that maybe it's not the best example because he's been struggling and it's not the impact guy, but I think that's a move you have to make.
100%.
Again, and I'm gonna like defend Kelnick, but not defend him because he's been benched. Like, if we're defending dudes who are missing cutoff men, but we're not defending guys pimping home runs that are outs at the end of the day, either way, I made the joke because Evan asked me. He goes, "Can I ask you?" Because you've hit 2 home runs in your entire career. Can I ask you why you would ever consider even pimping anything? And I go, Flax, let me tell you one thing. You know when you hit a perfect in MLB The Show, and you just know? I go, I hit perfects, and I just know. The problem is mine just don't go that far. So the point here, what I'm really getting at is that...
Did you ever hit home runs in BP?
I put on a show in BP.
See, for me...
He was Mr. BP back in the day.
Yeah.
No, I still am. I could still put on a BP show. Absolutely. Flax has seen it. I don't know that I can. I can put on an absolute BP show, low-key. But in the game, not enough backspin. Either way, moving on from me, I was just using an example. Where I'm going is Kelnick may have just simply...
I will, yeah.
Kelnick may have just simply thought he got it, and he didn't. The problem for me is where Flax is going with this is... You can't then try to salvage the play and find yourself out at second.
Take your medicine.
At the bare minimum, right, make sure you are still on base and take your medicine. And even in that scenario, with a guy not playing well in a team that might need an example, which they're playing pretty well right now all of a sudden, just kind of like we said they would. However, you could have still done it if you really wanted to. I think it's insult to injury that he got himself out at second. Now, Kelnick took it like an absolute dude, admitted his mistake, all that stuff. We moved on from it, so on and so forth. I know it's still running around a little bit with the Braves community, but I think at the end of the day, he probably should have benched him. Like, this is the opposite situation for me as Milwaukee. This was very benchable.
Yeah. Listen, all things get better with wins. Jackson Jackson threw in the chat that he would raise the loneliest spot on the baseball field was the UCF pitcher this weekend, celebrating the third out of the inning on a PFP, which was only the second out of the inning, and allowing the West Virginia runner to score the game-tying run. And I would agree.
I would doubt that probably takes the cake.
Yeah, that's a pretty lonely place to be on the field, because then you got to go back on the mound and actually get the third out.
Oh, yeah, that just makes me uncomfortable. To be honest. That's a bad spot to be.
Not where you want to be. If anybody else in the stream has any of their own stories of being the loneliest man on the field, throw them in the chat. We'd love to hear them.
Who's one up in Scudder?
I want to know who's one upping.
That's tough.
No, the only other manager situation I wanted to talk with you guys about is Rocco Baldelli. Because an article came out the other day where Baldelli pretty much came out and said, yeah, I know I'm on the hot seat, which is an interesting thing to say when it's not even May. To be
that's a really early hot seat.
When you're 2 games under 500 in, a fairly winnable division, if you start getting hot, and he's like, yeah, I know I'm on the hot seat. He's been the manager there for 6 years. I was going through this with Ryan. So 2015 to 2018, you have Paul Molitor. 2017, Paul Molitor is the manager of the year, has a down year in 2018. Baldelli comes in 2019, and they become a 101-win team. They've barely been, I think, between the next 5 years, they have hovered around 500. So his winning percentage is like 547, I think, which, again, is being salvaged by that first season that he had. It makes you kind of look at it on the whole and say, yeah, he's probably right. He probably is on the hot seat. But it's a weird thing to say before May, right?
Right.
Yeah.
To his credit with the hot seat, what did the Twins do at all this offseason to improve their ball club?
They needed to get healthy.
I'd say nothing, and they don't have guys that are relatively healthy too. So as much as it was disappointing with that crash last year in the last month, that was historically bad for them not making the playoffs. They also didn't address anything in the offseason, and it's a core that is reliant on staying healthy, and they haven't shown that.
So this is going to be a good segue into what I think is a good next conversation, but we're going to get there in a minute. Baldelli, scenario-wise here, he's absolutely on the hot seat, but I think we want people to think about 2 different things with Baldelli. One, he has a very interesting managing style where players are playing many different positions and hitting in many different spots in the order on a regular basis. Okay.
Too much.
Flax is a very, very big believer, and I'm on the fence about where I am, but I'm probably leaning more towards him with this thought process of not knowing where you're going to hit and where you're going to play when you come to the ballpark actually can do more harm than good, if that makes sense. You don't come to the place and you don't have a good feel of where you're going to be today. Whereas a guy like Snedeker, for example, on the flip side, running out the same lineup every night as long as his guys are healthy and can go, and when he subs people in, outside of if it's a top 1 to 4 guy, he kind of just slots people right into where that guy was hitting, or he moves everybody up 1, so there's very little relative change in the lineup. The second thing with Baldelli is Baldelli's been battling team injuries for 3 years. Royce Lewis, every time he plays, looks like an MVP. When you take 162 games out of Royce Lewis's career, you have an MVP-type guy. Royce Lewis has basically played 1 season of baseball in 4 years.
He plays 20 games at a time.
Buxton has had very similar issues, and Buxton he finally gets ramped up and he gets hurt again. It's super unfortunate, right? Correa has not been healthy. They've had general injuries from really important role players. Miranda hasn't been crazy healthy. So it's a really hard spot for the Twins to be in because it doesn't seem like culture's a problem there. It seems like he does a good job. It seems like the guys like to play under him. But at some point in time, it becomes about results.
Well, we talked about it last year. We talked about it last year, right? Like Willie Castro was the greatest example of this, where as a player for Willie Castro's career, the fact that he played 8 different positions last year, 7 different positions last year, was the best thing Willie Castro could have done. That being said, it was the worst thing for the Twins. it's great to have a guy who can move around that much. But you know what it means? Nobody else is playing the position consistently because he wasn't the only guy moving all over the place. Part of me believes it's in Baldelli's DNA to just manage a team that way, and you see other guys do it, right? I said we weren't going to talk about the Orioles, but Brandon Hyde does this with his lineup over and over. Ramon Laureano led off today. I'm not getting into this, but like
Please don't at Ramon Laureano.
but you look across the board and you said this, Ryan, like it makes you wonder because you would like to think that the manager and the bench coach and maybe a couple other guys within the dugout have the say of how the lineup's being written every day. But it makes you wonder who's actually a part of that conversation sometimes as much as it's changing.
100%.
How many matchups are we trying to create versus letting guys just get comfortable being in the box every single day, taking 4 to 5 ABs?
Tito, listen, regardless of what Tito said about and where it's like a very baseball side thing, Tito historically in Cleveland was playing 1 to 2 platoons at any point in time, right? He's a platoon split guy. I'm a platoon split guy. I got to be completely honest with you. I also believe you shouldn't have more than maximum 2 platoon splits, and I do like guys playing specific positions because they're coming to the ballpark knowing. And when you're playing a specific platoon split, those guys know by who is starting whether it's going to be them or not, right? There's no questioning when you've got guys playing a whole bunch of positions and doing all this jazz, moving up and down. We were talking today. What you get in the 2-hole is different than what you get in the 7-hole. What you get when you hit behind or in front of somebody is going to really dictate how a team may or may not attack you, even with their scouting reports. So the consistency can really help players sometimes. It can also help make guys who generally hit 1 or 2 pitches better than maybe everything else. They're going to see more of them because the other team has no choice but to attack them because they're not going to get beat by that guy. We're really getting into structures of lineups there. Let's move past this because I can go on a tangent about that for hours. And nobody needs those analytics in their brain tonight. The Flax, pull it up while we're doing this. The free agent market for pitching in 2020 at the end of 2025, so 2026 offseason. Woof, boys, and you know this is not to stick with the Orioles theme, but it's a good example. There was a lot of teams, not just the Orioles, where we were questioning why they did not go harder for a Burns or a Fried this offseason. Look at a Crochet, and Crochet you had to worry about whether he'd sign an extension or not. I'm really starting to, as we look into this, no competition breeds higher numbers for these pitchers, right? Because they can sit there and let everybody bid on them. And when the only big guys for trade are going to take all the bait in your bucket, unless you're a team like the Red Sox, it's hard to pull the trigger on that. The 2025-2026 offseason is friggin' loaded with arms. Flax, can we get the list real quick here?
Do you want me to pull it up on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throw it up on the screen.
Yeah. Come on.
Do that.
Let me see if I know how to do this.
I got faith. I mean, I do if you don't, but
I know Cease and Gallen are like 1 and 2 pretty much.
Yeah, by the end of this, my
yeah.
friend.
Wait till you see this list.
This list is much better than
bigger than you
people are
think.
making it out to be.
Dustin May's on it. Freddie Peralta won't be. I'm assuming the club will pick up that option.
Pick up the club.
But yes, Dylan Cease is on this, but Fromber?
Suarez.
Fromber?
Yeah, dude.
Tyler Malley's on there. I think I saw. Oh my gosh, why is his name slipping my mind? Lefty from the Pirates, Andrew Heaney.
He's been a dog this year too.
Been good this year. He's on the list somewhere.
Michael King's
there. He is.
King is on there. I know Sanga's in there too.
I'm not convinced they're gonna hold him.
Yeah, Sanga's on there. That's a player opt out, I think. Oh no, it's an opt out.
It's a potential player opt out.
Yeah, I mean this list is very, very, very long. Shota's on there as a mutual.
This is a much stronger list of starters.
Right.
And there is a lot more competition. Everybody's not going to be bidding on everybody, and you might get a more fair salary, so it is more realistic to grab 2 guys who could slot into 2-3 roles. We were really intrigued by this list.
And
as you're looking through this,
I did this by
what are your
age.
thoughts?
Who do you like? Who do you like at the top of the list besides those kind of few ones that everybody's talking about with Dylan Cease and a few others?
Other than like Cease or Gowan, I don't know. I'd say Peralta if they don't pick it up. I think Freddie Peralta would be a fantastic move for a team.
I love Peralta.
I think Freddie Peralta has been a guy, if you look at his advanced metrics, is a guy that should be a lot better than he's been performing, especially the last 2 years. And it's a guy that's going to go out there and give you 170 to 180 innings.
And he shows it in flashes, too. Like, there are flashes where the production is there, and he is one of the
games where he has 12, 13 strikeouts, no problem.
Yeah, let's throw out Dustin May being on that list. I don't want to miss the fact
he's 28.
That we're talking about a 20
well, it'll be 29. Yeah.
Dustin May potentially.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dude. So
Ranger Suarez is on there. He'll be 31.
Bieber will potentially be on a player opt-out depending on how the second half of his season goes. This is a much, much stronger list off rip with potential to be even better than 2024 was. I'm curious to see what teams are heavily in the market when these guys come up. But look, I like this a lot better if I'm trying to build a rotation than I do the 2024 situation.
Yeah, and I'll even chime in too. There were so many discussions on Twitter where it was like, why isn't my team going out there and getting a guy? And I don't think people were thinking about windows. It's like, if you have a window for, let's say, 8 to 10 years, for instance, the Mets, a lot of people are like, oh, the Mets need to get this guy and this guy and this guy and go out and trade for who. It's like you have a window for at least 10 to 15 years. Why don't you wait another year where the free agent market is way better and invest then and see what you have in-house to see what you can build on for the following year? So I think, the 2025 at the end, 2026 free agent class is way better than it was this year.
Well, and let's talk about guys like Corbin Burns and Max Fried. Max Friedman, look at what he's doing for the Yankees right now. This is better than anybody could have expected, how good he's been for the Yankees up to this point. Now, he's got a longer contract. It's obviously yet to be seen how it'll be over the entire life of it. But the fact that he is doing what he's doing up to this point would tell any Yankees fan that this was the right price to pay for him, which was the highest paid starting pitcher, left-handed, I can't say it correctly, largest contract for a starting left-handed pitcher in history, right? I mean, again, you want to know why your team didn't go get him? Because your team wasn't going to pay the highest paid contract for a starting left-handed pitcher. And that's okay, because there's going to be more of them. And you have to understand that the way that these things work, every GM has a plan A, B, C, D through Z.
We hope they do.
We assume they do. The hard part with free agency is that players have agency. Players can make their own decisions. And not every time is a player going to say, sure, you know what? You came to me first. I like you. I like your team and what you're doing. I'm going to go there. Sometimes guys just go where they're going to get more money. It happens.
Sometimes
that's
guys
okay.
Go places and it has nothing to do with the money.
No. Right? Corbin Burns wanted to go be near family. Again, something we learned from Corbin Burns' interviews when the Orioles were in Arizona and they were having those conversations. Even though the Orioles offered a higher AAV over a 4-year period, he viewed the number as lower because he was looking at the total number. You got to think about age. He was at a point where 6 years and a larger total number meant more to him than a higher AAV over the next 4 years. If he was 28 or if he was 26, it might not have meant as much because he would have known he was getting another contract at 30, 32 years old. But he wasn't in that boat. And I think that's the hard part, is that some teams are unwilling to go further down in years. I disagree with it because if you get what you want out of the guy in the first 3 years of a 6-year deal, happily pay him for the next 3 years. If he wins you a championship, you pay him for the next 3 years for having done that for you, not because you expect him to get you another one in the next 3 years.
Okay, let's move to the end of this. All right, I need for each of you, and I'll give you mine too.
Okay.
Who is currently your number one target if you're looking for a one out of this class of people?
Does it
I'm
have to
Zach
be
Gallen.
like free agent for?
No, it has to be in this list. Free
In this
agent.
list, free agent, like
I'm
not
betting
just
all my
unrestricted, not just unrestricted.
Yeah, I'm betting anybody on this list, let's just say they become a free agent. If you want to take a guy like King, you can. I'm still going to stick with Zach Gallen, who is going to be your free agent. I think if I can get Zach Gallen on a 5-6 year deal, similar to something with what they did with Burns, I think I'm doing it wholeheartedly. A guy who is a true pitcher is always, to me, going to be better over the long term of a contract. Gallen, when he has all 5 of his pitches, just like he tells everybody, they might not be the craziest pitches in baseball, but he can locate all of them, and he can play with people's minds, and he can play with people's, they tunnel, count, however you want to put it. I'm putting my money on Gallen, I think, pretty easily in this.
Ethan, you can go ahead first. I have an idea of who I want to say.
I'll go easy answer. I'll go Michael King. I think he's probably the best East-West pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And he's able to tunnel, 5 to 6 pitches. We saw it, the other night against the Rays, 9 strikeouts. When he's on, it's unbelievable. And I think this is a guy that's going to continue to get better, probably finish top 10, top 5 in Cy Young voting this year. And then maybe, I really do like Freddie Peralta. I think if the Brewers don't pick it up, I think Freddie Peralta is a guy that could go to a pitching-heavy team. Like, obviously, the Brewers are great with pitching development, but maybe Freddie Peralta goes to a team like the Orioles and can shock some people going there. But, I'm going to go Michael King, very easy answer, just with the East-West arsenal. And then if not, I'm going to go a little bit more underrated. If the Brewers don't pick it up, I'll go Freddie Peralta.
How long do I want him to be my ace for, Ryan?
That's your choice. Framber probably deserves some play here.
Yeah, so that's who I was going to go to. Framber Valdez is my ace, and I only say that. And if you saw the tweet earlier, in MLB The Show 25, I was playing my Road to the Show guy. We were playing against the Orioles, and I was facing Framber, which is hilarious because it's only funny because in the older version of MLB The Show that I had, they predicted a month before Corbin Burns had been traded to the Orioles. Corbin Burns had been traded to the Orioles when I was on the Orioles in Road to the Show. So now that Framber has been pledged to the Orioles in my Road to the Show this year, I'm thinking he's going to end up a free agent signed by the Orioles. But that aside, I think that he's the kind of guy that'll go out and just kind of be that workhorse at the front end of your rotation who consistently puts up good numbers. And I like that he's left-handed. I like a lot of his stuff. My only worry is he's 32 years old. Who's going to give him a 6-year contract? Because that's what he's going to want. And I don't know that that's what a lot of teams are going to be wanting to give, especially when you could go get any of these guys that are, Michael King, a Ranger Suarez, a Zach Gallen, Dustin May, who you could go give us, Dylan Cease, who you could go give a 6-year deal to, a 6 to 8 year deal to, and be just as happy. So Framber's got to get some love here, and I think I'd still take him happily. I'd probably give him closer to 5 years and hope that I get 3 really good years, and that I also spend some time finding some other pitching in the meantime, because it can't just be him.
Right.
So
pitchability, boys. We'll come back to this.
And not to mention, Framber Valdez the last 4 years has been top 5 or top 3 in ground ball rate. So it's not a guy that's going to be able to strike guys out. He keeps it on the ground, can generate tons of double plays to get out of innings.
Listen, he can play in any park too.
That's what I was gonna say.
Ground ball rate gives you more places. Because let me tell you what, you put the ball in the air, the Yankees ain't want you. They don't want you.
That's why they like these lefties with big benders, because they hit a lot of ground balls from the left side. Max Fried, Carlos Rodon get a lot of ground balls to the left side.
100%. And I'll tell you what, Ops, you're raised. They ain't gonna want anything but ground balls either for the next couple of years, or unforeseeable future.
Right.
I think they say for the foreseeable future. Yeah,
foreseeable,
I think that's the correct term.
Whatever. It's a Sunday night. I was up early.
Well, go ahead. No. Your show.
Where you're going? That's my show. Oh,
go ahead, Mr. BP.
Yeah, Mr. BP.
I'm taking a video next time. I hit BP nukes
we don't hit. When do we hit BP? In a
I had VP
cage?
on the No, I had VP on the
I
field
need to
multiple
see
times
like
this season.
baseball and stitch YouTube live BP would do absolute numbers.
We can make it happen.
We can absolutely make it happen.
That
Anybody
um,
thinks
that
I'm
um,
scared to make
that's the
that
kind of
happen? You're wrong.
content. That's the kind of content I'm down for. I was gonna say, Ethan. I'm curious. Do you have any baseball topics in the baseball world you want to bring to the conversation? Open
Um,
table. I'm putting you on the spot here. If you
Oh,
don't
I
have
guess
anything,
no,
that's
I don't
okay.
think
I
so.
mean,
He doesn't want to talk about the Orioles, so.
no, I would love to talk about the Orioles
I'm
with Evan.
sure we're fighting for last place.
No, I mean, I think like some just impact guys would be a really good topic. Like, I mean, we've seen with Chandler Simpson on the Rays. He's hitting
Absolutely.
400 with an 888 OPS. Has probably up there bat to ball skills already with a guy like Luis Arias, and he's a guy that's stolen 104 bases in the minors last year.
insane.
And the Rays are 6-2 since he's been called up. He's an electrifying player. Robbed a home run against Manny Machado, very similar to what Adam Jones did in the WBC a few years ago.
Yeah.
Guys like that can come up, make a huge impact, and can translate their skills at the minor league level right to the major league level. He hit a opposite field single off of Robert Suarez, first earned run he's allowed all year, and he has probably one of the most dominant
crazy.
forcing fastballs in Major League Baseball.
He is not afraid of the moment. He's already been impactful late in games. It's
Right.
so fun to watch. Like kicking off innings that lead to game tying, game leading runs on the board, driving in those runs, moving the ball around the field and using his legs, playing like you said, playing elite defense. It is so fun to watch him. It's
And
awesome.
I think it's a nice change of pace because we're seeing the three true outcome era of baseball: your home run, your strikeout, your walk. Chandler Simpson throws it back. He's a guy he's even said in press conferences. He's not known for that, obviously. I think it's a guy that's had under 5 career home runs in the minor league level. He's going to be a guy that does all the dirty work, gets on base, being an elite leadoff table setter for these power hitting guys like the Rays have. And I think that's a great change of pace, and just the enthusiasm he brings to the game of baseball is something that is so important in today's age for team chemistry too.
You've
You
got
guys have-
3 of
you guys
them.
have, yeah, but so you guys have multiple guys who are doing that
Yeah.
right now,
Right.
right? I mean,
You got Jake Mangum, Cameron
I mean, yeah,
Meisner.
Jake Mangum, Cameron Meisner 2 days ago was leading all rookies in F4. And I think 2 days ago, he saw 55 or 60 fastballs. He swung and missed at 1. It's a guy that's lowered his K percentage in the major league level. And he's been a 20-30 guy in the minors. So those are 3 impactful guys that we have had that have already made a huge impact for the team. And I don't know where the team would be right now without some of those guys, spark plugging and getting the team, rolling like we saw even against San Diego, 12-1 at home. They just got swept. Granted, they do have injuries to Jackson Merrill, Luis Arias, but
Yeah.
those guys have already made a huge impact.
Still a good team. Still a good ball club that's been winning plenty of games without those guys. It's Jackson Merrill didn't just leave the lineup, but yeah, it is pretty fun to see players like that re-enter the game. I think we're seeing it on the flip side too with pitchers as well. We're starting to see a lot more pitchers rather than just a lot of throwers, which has been a lot of fun to see. I mean, Ryan, I know you and I talk about this all the time. It's just guys have always thought about the pitch process, about tunneling, about where they want to throw the ball. But we've had so many guys who throw so hard that it's more of an idea than it is an execution plan or something they're actually trying to accomplish because they can get away with the mistakes.
Right.
That's the big piece of it. And as we move into pitchers, you talk about impact players. Joe Ryan's breaking out this year, and if anybody thinks it's not happening, you're wrong. And I know some people, he already broke out, this, that, and the other. Look, I'm as big of a Joe Ryan fan as there is. He's never had under a 3.55 ERA, not for the faint-of-hearted. Struggled a little bit in 2023, brought it back last year, but this year I think he's going to end up taking ace form. 7 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts today against, I get it, it's the Angels. However, you're supposed to dominate the teams you're supposed to dominate. His sweeper has looked unfriggin' believable. And from an overall standpoint, he's another guy who comes from an odd slot with a ton of ride on his fastball. And as he continues to learn how to truly pitch at the big league level, the pitchability that he has continues to increase and he starts to truly command his stuff, we're going to see this guy flourish because
I think he had 18 swings and misses on just his fastball today. When it's on, it is a unhittable pitch.
His arm slot is crazy. Well, people, it's funny. I saw Pitching Ninja put a thing together, and it was the overlay of that sweeper and a sinker, and they don't necessarily. I mean, they tunnel well, but they almost like break off and then cross paths again, going both directions. I feel like
I don't really feel like they tunneled. I'll be the first one to
say that's what I was gonna say. They don't tunnel.
I'm not doing
Yeah,
this.
I was gonna say even Ryan's fastball shape is so poor, but his VAA is so good that it appears like the ball just rises. It's just a rise ball.
He doesn't tunnel, but what he also does is his release point is so deceptive. So we talk Ryan and I talk about this all the time as a hitter. When you're in the box, learning how to focus and see the ball out of the pitcher's hand. There's a thing that a lot of big league hitters do that's called soft focus, hard focus, where you kind of move your focus around the pitcher's body or somewhere behind the pitcher, and then you have a window where they release from, and you quickly move your eyes to that release point and hard focus for a short period of time so that your eyes are as focused as possible on the spot where the ball is coming out. When guys do that, they tend to try and pick up some level of release, shape, spin, something. Joe Ryan has such a weird release point that he can get away with not necessarily tunneling his pitches because you don't get to pick up the spin until too late. And I think that's what's most fascinating is a guy like him that gets away from some of the more new age ideas of how to use your stuff as it is just stuff, and instead is a true pitcher trying to work his stuff around the zone, forcing the hitter's eyes to move, forcing the hitter's eyes to work so that it truly makes it hard to swing the bat.
I think there's two good things to throw in on Ryan. His arm angle has decreased by 3 degrees this year, so it's a little bit more to the side. All of his pitches since the arm angle decrease have slightly more movement than prior. This is where I remind people that if your average break or, for example, arm side run on your fastball was 13 inches last year, but it's 16 inches this year, that makes a much bigger difference from a standpoint of how he's locating these pitches than people would realize. Early in the season, getting to a point where you're comfortable, here's how I put it. When I try to throw my fastball right now, for example, as somebody who throws from the side with a ton of arm side run, if I want to go inner half of the plate or inside corner, I'm generally trying to throw it right down the middle and let it run back to the corner.
Right.
When my stuff is running consistently, I can hit the inside corner all I want. When my stuff is running more than I think or less than I think, it takes an adjustment. Big league pitchers have less variance than a men's league pitcher, let's be very clear. But the point is 3 inches difference is going to make him have to adjust to it. However, it's technically a nastier pitch once he starts getting it to where he wants to get it. So nothing but the ceiling or the sky being the limit for Joe Ryan here. I think he's going to continue to have a fantastic year. And by golly, 30-inch run on one of those sweepers today that he threw.
I know, yeah, that was ridiculous.
And it ended up
Video
in the
game
other batter's
like.
box is just gross, people.
I want to call out a few names here. These are all right-handed pitchers that throw under an average of 93 miles an hour. You got Jack Flaherty, Joe Ryan, Jake Irvin, who's throwing well, Tyler Mahle, who's throwing well, Sonny Gray, Chris Bassett, Aaron Nola, Bailey Ober. These are names that when they go out, you expect success. And these are guys who do not throw hard fastballs. They either A, have a lot of different pitches that they command extremely well, or the 3 pitches that they throw really well, they command incredibly well in and around the zone.
Right.
When you start thinking about that, that is not the new age pitching that we have seen with the Hunter Greens and the Paul Skeens and a lot of these different arms. We're still seeing in the back of the bullpen where guys just get up there and chuck. But to be honest, big league hitters, if you're a 2-pitch pitcher who throws really hard, you can get away with a whole lot less now than you could have 2 years ago. Big league hitters are getting much better at understanding how to take those at-bats and handle. You saw Ryan Stanek blew another save today, throwing 101 against the Nats.
Who'd he blow it to?
Right? Like the Nats did but again, like these are new young hitters who have seen 100 miles an hour since college or since prep school or minor league baseball, right? Like it's just not new for anybody. So you get to the big leagues and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got this guy who's throwing 93, but it's getting on me like 95, and he's putting it in positions on the zone that are nowhere hittable for me or that are not where I want to be swinging the bat. Like, if you've ever been in the box against a guy who has, like, even minor league caliber stuff, you start to realize their ability to nibble corners and put anything they want in a bullpen setting anywhere they want. And you won't even take the bat off your shoulder because you're just, like, jumping at it because you're like, that can't be a strike. And then you see the catcher holding it, like, and you're like, oh, it looks like he's holding it down the middle of the plate. Like, it's just, that's what these guys are able to do. And I think from a hitter's perspective, it just makes the game so difficult. There's a lot of other guys that are on this list that throw that hard that just make too many mistakes.
I know you guys talked about Chris Bassett the other day. Watching Chris Bassett is so good because he's not a thrower. He's just a pitcher. The way he's able to work the zone is fantastic.
It's awesome.
And just if you watch his next start, the amount of hitters you'll see just have uncomfortable at-bats, uncomfortable swings, takes on pitches right down the middle. It's unreal. I mean, even the same thing with a guy like Michael King. He's not a guy that's going to blow it by you, but he's throwing front door sinkers to lefties where they're jumping out of the box and it's ending up 3/4 down the middle of the plate.
Yeah.
We are ever so slowly coming back to the equilibrium of pitching in baseball. You will always have stuff guys. You will always have pitchers. Now, the big change I think that we're starting to see is now these guys, which I want to remind everybody, Joe Ryan still throws 93. There was a
Still
time,
not slow.
There was a time when we used to, on the screen, put a little fire marker when a guy threw 95.
Yeah.
Let's remember this. Like, what we're seeing from a velo perspective feels common to us now, but 10 years ago was not. So what I remind people is 93 is still hard as crap. The difference is 93 with pitchability plays like 101 with no pitchability.
Yeah.
Both of them can get you out at the same rate. The catch is when you have 101 and pitchability, we start talking about how amazing you are and in the category of one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, which is something we're seeing from Hunter Green, something we've seen from Paul.
Right, and even going just back to guys that are like pitchers too, you could see all these guys with great stuff, right? Just stuff plus metrics and stuff like that. But if you're not able to locate the fastball or work your arsenal in the right way, it doesn't really matter. Like, you could have the best stuff in the world, but until you deliver those results, it's just stuff at the end of the day. And there are a lot of guys that are pitchers with not great stuff that are able to work the zone, that are able to be that pure pitcher, and that's why they're able to be so successful at the major league level.
But you've talked about Boyle before. He's in your organization. He plays for the team that you love so much. He literally, like, when he's there, it's obvious. It is so friggin' obvious. You're like, wow, Jacob deGrom looks like that when he's.
I mean, Joe Boyle's stuff plus is like top 5 to top 10. He has some of the nasty stuff in the league, and he's made a couple of adjustments with his windup. He's made a couple adjustments with his glove location, lowering it to allow him to get to his slot better, and he developed a splinker. I don't know if you guys have seen it. He's undoubtedly going to be one of the best pitchers in baseball once he's able to fully walk in that command. He has ace-level stuff, and I would say ace-level potential. I don't even think it's really an overstatement. He has some of the best pure stuff in Major League Baseball.
But let's talk about the flip side, though. Let's talk about the flip side of this, though, with a guy like David Bednar. Right? David Bednar is a great example. 2023, fastball's averaging 96. 2024, fastball's averaging 97. He got worse, throwing harder. My expectation, if I look into some of his numbers, is that he probably threw a lot less strikes, so his walk rate was probably much higher, which is not great when you're coming out of the bullpen. It gets you to that 20. It's not great anytime, but like if you're a reliever, what do they say? The mark is like 20, 25 pitches before your stuff kind of falls off a cliff. It gets you to the 20, 25 pitch mark a whole lot faster when you're walking, guys, because you're getting deep in counts. But also, his K rate was down, which tells me that guys adjusted, and his stuff had them uneasy a lot less often. If he's not throwing strikes, which means he's probably not throwing strikes with the curveball or the splitter, or less so than he was, guys just get to sit on one pitch. It's a fastball. Look at Devin Williams. They're asking Devin Williams to throw his changeup an odd amount of time compared to how he had been throwing it before. He's not throwing it for a strike nearly as much. You know what that means? Everybody's just going to wait till they get his fastball. He doesn't throw 100. He's not going to blow by guys and get away with it either.
It's trying to turn a put-out pitch for a guy's entire career into a primary pitch.
Yeah.
He already.
I mean, even when he is throwing the changeup in the zone, it's right down the middle. It's not like he's the stuff is there. Like all of his metrics and everything look completely fine. But when that changeup is in the zone, it's right down the middle of the plate. And even I think the bases clearing or 2-run double that he allowed to the opposite field in Yankee Stadium pitches right down the middle of the plate.
Yep.
You could throw a great changeup, but if the location is not there, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing with some of these guys throwing 100 miles an hour. You could have a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. If it's right down the middle of the plate, major league hitters nowadays are going to be able to recognize it, especially if you have a flat fastball.
How do you teach a guy who's only ever thrown a really nasty pitch at the bottom of the zone and in the dirt
That's where we're going, right?
to find the outside of the zone with it?
It's the fact that he's having to adjust to a couple things. One, my personal opinion is he probably has to throw it 5 to 10% more of the time if you want this to do what it needs to do. Because again, we said it this week on the pod, this is just them trying to use the Tommy Canley type mix, which I love it for him, to be honest, but want him to throw it more. But when you take a pitcher's put-out pitch and you say this is now your primary pitch, that is a very different situation for anybody. It's an adjustment. You were throwing it to strike people out prior. If you do that now as the primary pitch, you will not get the swings and misses because you were setting it up before and you were purposely throwing it out of the zone, and your muscle memory is throwing it out of the zone.
Right.
So when you start to try to adjust, you are very likely to hang it. It's going to take you time to find the portions of the zone you need to. Devin Williams right now is about being patient. Plus, it may be better for them as he figures this out to get him out of the highest of high leverage roles when you have a Luke Weaver who's ready to do it for the moment. And it's not like Williams can't take it later. We're not saying you take him completely out of high leverage, but throw him in the eighth. Give your offense a chance if he's still finding it and leaves one over the heart of the plate.
I think they're going to start throwing him in a little bit lower leverage situations in the 6th and 7th. You have Leiter Jr., you have Luke Weaver, you have guys who have experience pitching in high leverage situations. I think you just kind of let him work his way back. But you brought up Tommy Canley real quick. Did you guys see the video of the Talkin' Baseball guys and Trevor Plouffe? Trevor Plouffe basically they're doing their podcast and he said, I just don't understand how he threw 30-something of them in a row in the playoffs. Everybody in the world knows it's coming.
74 in a row.
Everybody in the park knows it's coming. How do you not hit it? And he was like, I don't even know if I ever faced the guy. And of course they brought up his 2 at-bats against him. I've never seen anybody look more uncomfortable in the box, he played 830 games in the major leagues. He had 3,200 big league plate appearances. And Trevor Plouffe looked so uncomfortable in the box against Tommy Canley. But you know what? For a guy whose primary pitch is not a fastball, it makes you uncomfortable because you always have in the back of your mind, when's he going to run one at me? When's he going to run? When is he going to run? I can't just sit on the changeup because I'm going to get blown up by a fastball. And then all of a sudden I have 2 pitches that might be coming. And then, oh, by the way, if I can also dump a slider in there, and I do that to you every now and then all of a sudden you've got 3 pitches that could come at any point in time in any count. I do not think that there is faith that Devin Williams could throw a changeup in a 2-0 count without it getting absolutely blasted right now.
Yeah, I think Devin Williams will bounce back in like 3 weeks. I don't
Absolutely.
think this is this is something that I think a lot of people, even online on Twitter, are kind of freaking out about. I think Devin Williams, the home run against Pete Alonso, was like the 5th home run he's ever allowed on his changeup last year. It is one of the most unhittable pitches in baseball, and I think once he gets used to being a Yankee, he gets accustomed into those lower leverage roles, and then in 2 weeks he's back into his usual spot. I think he'll be perfectly fine.
Not everybody's built for the Bronx.
Throw out
Look at Sonny Gray.
61 consecutive changeups between the ALCS and the World
That's
Series.
insane.
He threw the same pitch 61 times.
What? Well, to be fair, I'm wondering. This is going to be a dumb question because I'm sure there's somebody out there who can tell me this.
Never a dumb question.
I'm curious if he naturally pronates, and I don't mean that from this. Is it a? I'm assuming at this point it's a very comfortable arm motion and comfortable pitch for him to throw.
Listen,
Like you're not going to go out there and ask.
Very-
No. I'm Tommy Canley. I'm assuming that like you wouldn't run a guy out there and have him throw 60 curveballs in a row, even if everyone's swinging and missing at it every single time.
This is where you can give yourself multiple examples, and I'm gonna check before I put egg on my face.
No, I think you got to say it. I told Jackson in the chat that if we say dumb things, he has free reign to let us know.
Good. Well, I'm right. Technically
Good.
speaking, Chris Sale's primary pitch is a slider.
Well, that I know.
But hold on, all I'm making the point of is
He doesn't throw it 60 times in a row.
He doesn't. That's fine. But I'm gonna be honest with you. Chris Sale, if he wanted to, especially at his peaks, could have thrown it 60 times in a row.
Yeah.
And the results wouldn't have been bad.
Yeah.
I would say the only other guy that I know that was throwing a pitch that much was Luis Castillo like 2 years ago. Luis Castillo would throw like 30 fastballs in a row, and he would have no problem
He
with
didn't
it.
care.
Yeah.
It was awesome. But there's guys who could do that. That's the thing.
Right.
Like, let's be very clear. Listen, Skeens could truly, if he just commanded the fastball, could have just fine results on just a fastball. Because the biggest difference here is these guys only see him so many times a year. And big league pitchers talk about all the time in the backfields that their own guys hit the crap out of them. It's only because they get to see him all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
It's only because they have an idea of what they're going to do. The beauty of this whole thing is these guys might see a pitcher if they're out of division once a year. If they're in the division, they're going to see him a couple more times. But it's also why in-division games are generally a lot more fun. Because at the end of the year, they have seen these guys, and the offenses a lot of times will spark. So when guys throw better in-division late in seasons, it's that much more impressive. Because these guys do have a book on them. These guys have seen them and seen the ball come out of their hands. We're running a time here.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah, you seem surprised, as if this ever feels long to you. Either way, thank you guys for hanging out with us. Eathan, you're the man. We appreciate you. Thanks for being our first non-Scudder guest. You know we'll have you back on at some point in time. Guys, if you're not familiar with running from the OPS, you should be. Go check him out if you haven't already. If you're coming over to hang out with us from his wonderful cohort of people, thank you for joining us tonight. Past that, everybody, Sunday night, get some rest before work. Flax, whatever you need to say, say it.
Go listen to the pod. Give us a follow. Give Eathan a follow at ops_baseball. This is the best place to get your baseball information week in and week out.
I need a BP video of you guys.
Oh, it's on.
That's the last.
It's coming.
It needs to be on the way. I need to see Mr. BP in action.
We'll cut it together.
Flax even knows that I can put on a BP show. Don't let him fool you.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Thank you guys for having me on, too. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Thank you
We're
for your
glad you
support.
could do it.
We appreciate you. Past that, everybody, have a great evening, a good night, and a good week. We'll see you guys. Maybe you'll hear us, I guess, on Tuesday. Have a good one.
Yeah.